The rain hammered the windshield like accusations, each drop a reminder of the words he'd just hurled into the void. Christopher's phone buzzed in the cup holder, the screen lighting up with a name that made his stomach twist. Michael. Not his dad, thank God. No, this was worse, the one man who'd always been the steady uncle figure, the friend who fixed engines and told bad jokes at barbecues. He snatched it up, heart slamming against his ribs, and read the reply. I'm here. Talk to me. In that instant, the cab of his beat-up Ford pickup felt like a confessional booth, the dashboard glow casting his face in sickly yellow. He'd meant to delete the message before it sent. The raw, rambling confession about the boy in college who'd shattered him, about the lies he'd told his family to keep the peace in their Bible Belt Kansas town. But his thumb had slipped, and now the truth was out, naked and trembling in the digital ether. Michael's words weren't fire and brimstone. They were a lifeline, pulling him from the edge of the abyss he'd been teetering on since the breakup that left him hollowed out, questioning if love was just another word for loss. Christopher gripped the steering wheel until his knuckles whitened, the wipers slashing back the storm as if they could erase the last 5 minutes. He was 23, fresh out of community college with a mechanic certification burning a hole in his wallet, back home in Wichita where the flatlands stretched like an unfulfilled promise. His dad, Tom, was the salt-of-the-earth type, a high school football coach whose idea of affection was a clap on the shoulder after a long day at the garage. Mom baked pies for church potlucks and prayed over dinner for guidance in these trying times. They'd raised him right, or so they thought, straight arrow Chris, the kid who fixed neighbors' tractors and volunteered at the food bank. But beneath it all, he'd buried pieces of himself deeper than the tornado shelters in their backyard. The message had been a mistake born of desperation. Last night, after one too many beers at the local dive, he'd scrolled through old photos. Him and Alex, tangled in laughter at a Kansas State tailgate, hands brushing in ways that lingered too long. Alex, with his easy smile and city boy swagger from Lawrence, had whispered promises in dorm rooms that smelled of ramen and regret. We're endgame, he'd said. But endgame turned out to be a ghosting after graduation. A curt text about figuring things out, that Christopher still reread like a wound he couldn't stop picking. The ache had festered, mixing with the fear of forever hiding in plain sight, until he'd opened his phone at 2 a.m. and typed it all to Michael, the one person outside his family who might get it, or at least not hate him for it. Michael Harlan was 42, broad-shouldered and weathered like the wheat fields he farmed on the outskirts of town. He'd been Tom's best friend since high school, the two of them inseparable through Vietnam-era drafts they dodged, failed businesses, and the quiet victories of raising kids in the heartland. Michael had shown up at every milestone. Christopher's first little league hit, his prom photos, with a girl he'd barely spoken to, the awkward hug when he graduated. He ran a small auto repair shop off Highway 54, hands always grease-stained, eyes crinkled from years of squinting at engines under the relentless prairie sun. Divorced a decade ago. No kids, just a loyal mutt named Rusty and a porch swing where he nursed black coffee at dawn. To Christopher, he was the rock, the guy who listened without preaching, who fixed what was broken without asking why it shattered. Now, as Christopher idled at the stoplight on Central Avenue, the reply burned in his palm. I'm here. Talk to me. Simple words, but they unlocked something fierce inside him. A sob that caught in his throat, hot and unbidden. He punched in the address Michael had attached. His farmhouse 20 minutes east, past the glow of the Flint Hills. The truck lurched forward, tires hydroplaning on the flooded road, carrying him toward a conversation that could rebuild him or break what little was left. By the time he pulled into the gravel drive, the storm had eased to a drizzle, the sky a bruised purple over the silos. Michael's porch light flickered on, and there he was, framed in the doorway, flannel shirt sleeves rolled up, a dish towel slung over his shoulder like he'd been elbow-deep in dinner prep. No judgment in his stance, just that steady gaze, the kind that saw through bullshit without calling it out. Kid, he said, voice gravelly from years of shouting over shop noise. Get in here before you catch your death. Christopher stepped out, boots squelching in the mud, and followed him inside. The kitchen smelled of chili simmering on the stove, cornbread cooling on the counter. A slice of normalcy that made the knot in his chest tighten. Rusty padded over, tail thumping lazily, as if sensing the tension but too old to care. Michael poured 2 mugs of coffee, black as midnight, and slid one across the scarred oak table. "So," he said, settling into a chair that creaked under his weight, "that message. You want to unpack it? Or should I pretend I didn't read the part about Alex being more than a roommate?" The directness hit like a gut punch, but there was no malice in it. Just truth, plain-spoken and American as apple pie. Christopher sank into the opposite seat, staring into the steam rising from his mug. "I didn't mean to send it. Drunk, stupid. Whatever. Forget it, Mike. I'll delete the thread we can." "Like hell." Michael's hand shot out, not grabbing, just resting firm on the table between them, a barrier against retreat. "You think I'd let you swallow that poison alone? I've known you since you were in diapers, Chris. Seen you wrestle demons bigger than most grown men face. This ain't about forgetting. It's about facing it." The words cracked him open. He talked then, halting at first, then in a rush, the story spilling out like floodwater. Alex's charm, the stolen kisses in the back of lecture halls, the way love had felt like flying until it plummeted into silence. The fear of telling Tom, of the church ladies whispering, of losing the only home he'd known. Michael listened, chin resting on steepled fingers, his silence a gift more precious than platitudes. When Christopher trailed off, voice hoarse, Michael leaned back, exhaling slow. "Listen," he said, eyes locking on with an intensity that made Christopher's pulse stutter. "I ain't gonna sugarcoat it. This world's got sharp edges for folks like us, hell, for anyone who don't fit the mold. But regret, that's the real killer. I know, 'cause I lived it." He paused, glancing out the window where lightning forked distant, illuminating the empty fields. "After the divorce, I spent years pretending I was fine. Truth is, Sarah left because she knew I was carrying a weight I couldn't name. Not till later, when I finally admitted to myself what it meant to love men the way I do. Quietly, mostly, but it freed me, Chris, more than any lie ever could." The confession hung there, electric, rewriting the map of their history. Michael, gay? The man who'd coached his t-ball team, who'd taught him to change oil and tie a Windsor knot. It reframed every memory. The lingering pats on the back. The way he'd watch Christopher with a protectiveness that bordered on tender. Not predatory, never that. Just human, layered, real. Christopher's throat bobbed. "You never said. Wasn't my story to tell till it was." Michael shrugged, but his smile was soft, edged with old sorrow. "Your turn now, and whatever comes, you got backup. Me, always." In that kitchen, with the rain pattering like hesitant applause, something shifted. Not fireworks, not yet. Just a bridge arching over the chasm of isolation. Christopher reached across the table, palm up, and Michael clasped it, calluses rough against skin. A promise forged in the quiet hours before dawn. The days blurred after that night, a tentative rhythm settling over Christopher's life like dust after a windstorm. He threw himself into the garage job Tom had lined up for him at Harlan's Auto. Irony not lost, working under Michael's watchful eye. The shop was a sanctuary of clang and grease, where engines didn't judge and torque wrenches drowned out the noise in his head. Mornings started with coffee runs, Michael handing him a thermos with a wink that sent warmth pooling low in his gut. Afternoons bled into evenings of side-by-side repairs, shoulders brushing in the tight confines of undercarriages. It was innocent at first, or so he told himself. Shared lunches of ham sandwiches on the workbench, stories swapped about nothing and everything. Michael's wild college days in Topeka, dodging draft notices with Tom. Christopher's dreams of escaping to Denver, where the mountains might muffle the echoes of small-town scrutiny. Laughter came easier, a balm on the raw edges Alex had left. But beneath it, a current hummed, unspoken and insistent. The way Michael's gaze lingered when Christopher wiped sweat from his brow, or how their knees knocked under the hood, neither pulling away quick enough. One sweltering July afternoon, as they wrestled a rusted Chevy onto the lift, the air thick with exhaust and unspoken tension, it crested. "Hand me the breaker bar," Michael grunted, stretched out beneath the chassis. Christopher obliged, leaning in to pass it, their fingers tangling for a beat too long. Heat flushed his cheeks. Not from the sun slanting through the open bay doors, but from the spark that jumped between them, alive and dangerous. Michael emerged, wiping his hands on a rag, eyes dark under the brim of his cap. "You all right, kid? Look like you seen a ghost." Christopher swallowed, heart thudding like a misfiring piston. "Yeah, just thinking about how your voice sounds like gravel and honey, how your laugh lines map a life I'd follow anywhere." But he said none of it, just nodded toward the cooler. "Beer? Dad's on his way over later. Might as well unwind." Tom arrived at dusk, his pickup kicking up dust as he pulled in, all bluster and backslaps. "Boys, heard you fixed old man Jenkins' heap. Beer's on me." The three of them cracked cans on the shop's loading dock, feet dangling over the edge, watching fireflies wink in the gathering twilight. It was a scene straight from Christopher's childhood, Tom regaling them with tales of glory days, Michael chuckling low, the bond between them unbreakable. But now, Christopher sat between them like a fulcrum, teetering on the weight of secrets. "You two make a hell of a team," Tom said, clinking his can against theirs. "Chris, you're a natural. Mike here's the best damn mechanic this side of the Mississippi. Taught me everything I know, back when we were grease monkeys ourselves." Michael shot Christopher a sidelong glance, something unreadable flickering there. "Takes one to know one, Tom. Your boy's got hands like mine. Steady, sure." The double meaning hung, invisible to Tom but electric to Christopher, who busied himself with a swig, the cold fizz doing nothing to cool the fire building inside. As Tom rambled on about the upcoming county fair, pig roasts, demolition derbies, the works, Christopher's mind wandered to the what-ifs. What if he told his dad now, with Michael as witness? What if the world tilted off its axis, friendships fracturing like cheap glass? The fear coiled tight, a serpent in his belly, but Michael's presence anchored him, a quiet assurance that some bridges could weather storms. Night fell soft over the fields, stars pricking the velvet sky like promises. Tom headed out first, clapping Michael on the back with a, "Don't be a stranger. Dinner Sunday, my treat." Then it was just them, the shop lights humming faintly, crickets chorusing in the grass. Michael stood, stretching, his shirt riding up to reveal a sliver of tanned skin above his belt. "Walk you to your truck?" They ambled slow, gravel crunching under boots, the air heavy with honeysuckle and possibility. At the driver's door, Michael paused, hand on the hood. "Hey, about the other night, what I said, it don't change nothing between us, right? Still just Mike and Chris, fixing what's broke." Christopher met his eyes, the vulnerability there mirroring his own. "Nah, changes everything." The words slipped out, bold and bare, and before he could second-guess, he closed the gap, pressing his lips to Michael's in a kiss that tasted of risk and revelation. It was brief, chaste, a brush of mouths that spoke volumes, before they broke apart, breaths mingling in the humid night. Michael's hand cupped his jaw, thumb tracing the line of his cheekbone, eyes searching. "Christ, kid, we gotta be careful." "I know." But as he drove home, windows down to let the wind whip away the days, Christopher felt alive for the first time in months. Careful, yes, but not afraid. Not anymore. The secret bloomed in stolen moments. A hand squeeze behind the toolbox, texts late at night that danced around the edges of longing. Thinking about that '72 Mustang. Curves like a dream. Winks over engine blocks that left him flushed and fumbling. Michael was a gentleman through it all, patient as the prairie, drawing him out with questions that peeled back layers. Dreams deferred, fears unnamed. In return, Christopher glimpsed the man behind the flannel, the poet who'd scribbled verses in shop ledgers, the lover who'd lost his heart to a drifter in his 20s, only to bury it under layers of self-preservation. Yet the idol was fragile, laced with the threat of discovery. Wichita wasn't San Francisco. It was church suppers and Friday night lights, where different was whispered like a curse. Tom's Sunday dinners became minefields, Christopher hyper-aware of every glance, every casual touch that might betray them. Michael played it cool, the affable uncle, but his eyes held a hunger that mirrored Christopher's own, a quiet storm building. One evening, after a long day tuning up a fleet of tractors for harvest season, they lingered in the shop after closing. The sun dipped low, painting the walls in gold, and Michael pulled him into the office. A cramped space cluttered with invoices and faded Polaroids. "Come here," he murmured, backing against the desk, drawing Christopher close until their foreheads touched. This kiss was deeper, unhurried, hands roaming with a reverence that made Christopher's knees weak. Michael's fingers threaded through his hair, tilting his head just so, while Christopher's palms splayed over the solid plane of his chest, feeling the steady thump beneath. It was intimacy without urgency, a language of touches that said, "I see you, all of you." When they parted, gasping softly, Michael rested his brow against Christopher's. "Your trouble, you know that? The best kind." He grinned, but the joy was tempered by the shadow of reality. What if Dad finds out? What if? Shoo! Michael's grip tightened, grounding. "One step, Chris. That's all we take. Together." But steps have echoes, and theirs were about to reverberate in ways neither could foresee. August brought the fair, a whirlwind of cotton candy and carnival lights that lit the fairgrounds like a fever dream. Christopher manned the garage's booth, handing out flyers for oil changes while Michael flipped burgers on the grill, his laughter booming over the din of Midway barkers. Tom wandered through with a plate of ribs, grease-smeared grin wide. "Look at you two, holding down the fort. Proud of ya, son." The normalcy chafed, a too-tight collar. Christopher stole glances at Michael, apron dusted with flour, sleeves rolled to expose forearms corded with muscle from years of wrenching. Their eyes met across the crowd, a silent conversation. Soon, patience. But patience frayed when Alex texted out of the blue. A photo from Lawrence, him arm in arm with some new guy. Caption: "Miss the old days?" It landed like shrapnel, reopening scars, and Christopher deleted it without reply. But the doubt lingered, a whisper of not enough. That night, after the crowds thinned, Michael found him by the Ferris wheel, staring up at the glittering wheel as if it held answers. "Hey, stranger." He bumped shoulders, casual as ever. "You vanished after setup. Everything good?" Christopher hesitated, the words sticking. Alex messaged. "Nothing big, just stirred shit up." He shrugged, but his voice cracked on the edges. Michael's jaw tightened, a flicker of something possessive in his eyes. Jealousy, maybe, or just the ache of knowing. That boy's a fool. Left the best thing he ever had. He slung an arm around Christopher's shoulders, brotherly to any onlooker, but the weight was intimate, thumb brushing his collarbone. "You're more than his ghost, Chris. You're the real deal." They rode the wheel in silence, the pod swaying gentle as it climbed, the town sprawling below like a patchwork quilt. At the top, with the world hushed, Michael turned to him. "I ever tell you about the first guy I fell for? Summer job in '82, working silos up near Salina. He was a drifter, all sharp edges and poetry. Thought it was forever. Till he hit the road, left me with a dog-eared Kerouac and a heart full of holes." Christopher leaned in, their thighs pressing warm. "Sounds like my kind of mess." "Nah, ours is cleaner." Michael's hand found his, lacing fingers in the shadowed gondola. "We're building, not breaking." The kiss that followed was sweet, tentative, the creak of the wheel masking their soft sighs. Below, families laughed, oblivious, but up there, it felt like the axis of the world shifted just for them. A stolen Eden amid the chaos. Fall crept in on crisp winds, leaves turning gold along the Arkansas River. Work at the shop intensified with harvest breakdowns, long hours that left them bone-tired but buzzing with proximity. One chilly October dawn, before the sun crested, Michael texted, "Meet me at the North Field. Got a surprise." Christopher arrived to find a thermos of coffee and a blanket spread under the old oak that marked the property line. Dew-kissed grass whispering secrets. They lay side by side, watching the sky bleed pink, hands entwined. "This," Michael said, gesturing to the vastness, Reminds me why I stay. Quiet. Honest. He rolled to face him, breath mingling. You thinking of Denver still? Christopher traced the lines of his face, memorizing. Used to. Now? Feels like home's wherever you are. The admission hung, profound, and Michael's response was a kiss that deepened slow, bodies aligning in a dance of warmth and want. Clothes stayed on, boundaries respected. This was love's prelude, not consummation, but the press of chest to chest, the hitch of breath, wove them tighter. Afterward, tangled in the blanket, Michael confessed more. The loneliness post-divorce, the bar in Wichita where he'd found fleeting connections, always walking away before dawn. Till you make me want to stay the course. Vulnerability like that was a gift, and Christopher cradled it careful, sharing his own fractures. The church youth group where he'd prayed the gay away, the mirror stares that judged harder than any sermon. They talked till the sun climbed, birds wheeling overhead, forging a pact in the morning light. No more hiding from each other, even if the world demanded it. But the world has a way of intruding. Tom's annual deer hunt rolled around, a Harlan Tom tradition since Christopher was old enough to hold a rifle. The cabin in the Tallgrass Prairie Preserve was rustic, log walls, stone hearth, the scent of pine and gun oil. Michael drove up with supplies, his truck loaded with coolers, while Tom and Christopher trailed in the Ford. Over venison stew that night, stories flowed. Tom's glory days as quarterback, Michael's near miss with a buck in '95 that still haunts my dreams. As embers died in the fireplace, Tom clapped Michael on the back. Couldn't ask for a better second dad to the boy. You two thicker than thieves. The words landed heavy, affection laced with unwitting irony. Christopher met Michael's eyes across the firelight, a shared ache, and later, when Tom snored in the loft, they slipped out to the porch, breath fogging in the chill. Close call, Christopher whispered, leaning into Michael's side. Too close, but Michael's arm wrapped around him anyway, pulling him flush. They stood there, stars carpeted above, the wilderness a buffer against prying eyes. The kiss was fierce, born of the day's pent-up longing, hands fisting flannel as if to anchor against the pull of revelation. Hunting dawn broke clear, rifles cracking through the mist-shrouded oaks. Christopher bagged a small buck, the shot echoing his inner turmoil. Precise, final, but leaving a hollow. Back at the cabin, as they dressed the kill, Tom's phone buzzed with a text from Mom. Church rummage sale this weekend. Bring the boys. Normalcy, relentless. That evening, packing gear, disaster struck. Christopher's phone, left charging on the kitchen counter, lit up with a notification. A photo from Michael, innocent enough. The two of them at the fair, arms slung casual, caption teamwork makes the dream work. But the angle caught something, a brush of fingers too intimate, a look too loaded. Tom glanced over, chuckling. You two are like peas. What's this? Heart in his throat, Christopher snatched it. Just shop stuff, Dad. Tom waved it off, but the seed was planted, doubt flickering in his eyes like the last coals. As they drove home, the cab thick with unspoken, Christopher gripped the wheel, praying the storm held off. Didn't. 2 days later, Tom cornered him in the garage, face etched with concern. Son, we need to talk. About you and Mike. The world narrowed to a pinprick, betrayal's first bitter taste. Not from Michael, but from the fragile web they'd spun, now unraveling thread by thread. Tom's words landed like a shotgun blast, scattering Christopher's composure across the oil-stained concrete. He froze mid-wipe of a carburetor, rag clutched white-knuckled, the shop's fluorescent buzz suddenly deafening. What do you mean, Dad? Tom shifted, boots scuffing, his coach's authority softened by paternal worry. Saw that photo. The way you look at him ain't like buddies. And the whispers. Jenkins' boy mentioned you two lingering after hours. Chris, if something's going on, you tell me straight. We're family. The air thickened, accusation veiled as care. Christopher's mind raced. Deflect, deny, disappear. But Michael's face flashed, steady and true, stealing him. Dad, it's not. We're just close. He's been there for me, Through stuff. Through the stuff you can't know, the ache of loving in shadows. Tom's brow furrowed, hand on his shoulder heavy. Close is fine, but if it's more, if it's that, we gotta get you help. Pastor Ray's got resources, counseling. Ain't no shame in fighting temptation. Temptation. The word sliced deep, reducing Michael's touch to sin, their stolen breaths to battles. Christopher jerked away, chest heaving. It's not a fight, Dad. It's me. All of me. The confession tore free, raw and ragged, years of suppression erupting. I like guys. Love them even. And Michael. He gets it. He's not some devil. He's the best man I know. Silence crashed, Tom's face paling, then flushing crimson. Jesus, Chris. You can't, this town's got rules, values. And Mike, my best friend, betraying me like that. Betrayal. Flung like a gauntlet, twisting their tenderness into treachery. Tom stormed out, door slamming, leaving Christopher slumped against the workbench, sobs racking silent. He texted Michael one word, Dad knows. The reply came swift, on my way. 20 minutes later, Michael's truck roared in, and he burst through the bay doors, face thunderous. What happened? Christopher recounted it in halting bursts, shame burning hot. Michael pulled him into a fierce hug, flannel absorbing tears. Easy. We'll face it together. But together fractured fast. Tom showed up at Michael's farm that evening. Unannounced, voice booming from the porch as Christopher watched from the kitchen window. How long, Mike? How long you been poisoning my boy? Michael stepped out, calm as a lake before storm. Tom, it ain't poison. It's truth. Chris is hurting, and I... Save it. Tom's finger jabbed accusatory. I trusted you. 20 years, brother. And you turn my son? Get out of his life, or so help me. The threat hung, ugly and final, severing bonds forged in youth. Michael didn't rise to it, just stood firm. I love him, Tom. Not like a game. Real. You want to hate me? Fine. But don't punish him for being honest. Tom's glare shifted past him, locking on Christopher in the doorway. Disappointment carved deep lines in his face. Deeper than any loss on the field. Choose, son. Us or this. Mistake. The ultimatum gutted him, family cleaving like fault lines. Christopher's voice broke. Dad, please. It's not a choice. It's who I am. Tom turned, truck peeling out in a spray of gravel, leaving silence to settle like fallout. Michael wrapped arms around him from behind, chin on shoulder. He'll come around. Give it time. But time stretched taut, days bleeding into weeks of frost. Tom avoided the shop, meals at home silent as graves. Mom's eyes red-rimmed over her knitting. Christopher moved into Michael's spare room, temporarily. The farmhouse a refuge laced with grief. Nights, they held each other, kisses turning desperate, hands mapping solace in the dark. I got you, Michael whispered, fingers tracing spine. Always, yet doubt crept, insidious. Christopher caught Michael staring at old photos, him and Tom young and grinning, guilt etching his features. You regret this? He asked one midnight, sheets tangled. Regret losing Tom? Yeah. Michael's honesty stung, but he cupped Christopher's face. Never you. You're worth the wreckage. Thanksgiving loomed, a minefield. Mom called, voice trembling. Come home, honey. We miss you. Pastor's coming. We can pray on it. The plea twisted, love warped by fear. Christopher declined, opting for a quiet meal at the farm. Turkey from the oven, pie from scratch, Rusty's head in his lap. But the emptiness gnawed, a hollow where family should be. Then betrayal struck, sharp and unforeseen. A letter arrived for Michael from Tom's lawyer, no less. Terms for dissolving their informal partnership on the shop, citing personal conflicts. It was business, Tom claimed later in a curt voicemail, but the subtext screamed punishment. Sever ties, or lose the garage that bound them. Michael crumpled the paper, jaw clenched. Bastard, after all we built. Christopher's fury ignited. I'll talk to him. Make him see. No. Michael's hand stayed him. This is his hurt talking. Let it cool. But cooling bred distance. Tom escalated, enlisting church friends, subtle at first, concerned calls to Christopher about finding your way back, then outright. A petition circling for Michael to step down from youth coaching, whispers of his lifestyle tainting the team. The town turned, eyes averted at the grocery, murmurs trailing like smoke. Climax brewed in the cold snap of December. A brutal ice storm blanketed Wichita, power lines snapping, roads glazing treacherous. Christopher volunteered at the community center, handing out blankets to the stranded. When Tom appeared, coat dusted white, face gaunt. Need to talk. Now. They huddled in the gym, cots creaking under displaced families, the air thick with coffee and despair. I did this wrong, Tom admitted, voice rough. Pushed too hard. But Chris, he's taking you from me. My friend, my son, gone. It's not taking, Dad. It's loving. Christopher's plea burned. Michael's family, too. To both of us. Tom's eyes welled, the mighty coach cracking. I don't know how to fix this. You don't fix people. You accept. The words echoed Michael's, a lifeline tossed. Tom nodded, tentative. Maybe. Gimme time. It was a crack in the ice, fragile but real. As the storm raged outside, father and son sat shoulder to shoulder, silence thawing into halting words. Apologies, admissions, the first steps of bridge building. Back at the farm, Christopher burst in, snow melting in his hair, pulling Michael into an embrace that spoke volumes. He's trying. We all are. Michael's relief was palpable, kiss fierce against the chill. That's my boy. Stronger than any storm. But peace is fleeting in fractured lands. Whispers evolved into action. A brick through Michael's shop window, scrawled with sinner, the night before Christmas Eve. The vandalism shattered more than glass, trust, in the community they'd served. Michael boarded it up stoic, but Christopher saw the wear, the toll of standing sentinel. We leave, he urged, packing boxes in the lamplight. Denver. Start fresh. Michael hesitated, gaze on the fields he'd tilled. And your dad? The life here. We build a new one. Together. The promise sealed with a kiss, but doubt lingered. Was love enough to outrun the heartland's long shadow? Christmas dawned brittle. The bricks echo a specter over eggnog and lights. Michael strung garland around the farmhouse porch, defiant cheer, while Christopher baked cookies with Mom's recipe, the kitchen filling with cinnamon and tentative hope. Tom called, awkward, but present. Come over later? Got gifts. No mention of faith or fixes, just family, frayed but clinging. The Harlan home, Michael's, now theirs, glowed modest. A tree scavenged from the back 40, ornaments handmade from shop scraps. They exchanged presents wrapped in newsprint. For Michael, a leather-bound journal Christopher had found at the flea market, pages for his unwritten poems. For him, a silver wrench pendant, engraved steady hands. For the fixer in you, Michael said, fastening it around his neck, lips brushing collarbone. Tom arrived at dusk, bearing ham and wariness, Mom trailing with pies and a hug that lingered. The table strained under food, conversation skirting edges, weather, football, the storm's cleanup. Under it, glances. Tom's to Michael, appraising. Michael's steady, unyielding. Christopher's bridging, pleading. When dishes cleared, Tom cleared his throat. Mike, about the shop. I overstepped. Let's talk terms. Partners again. The olive branch trembled, and Michael clasped it. Partners. Always were. Handshakes followed, rough and real, the air lightening like post-rain sky. But betrayal's shadow loomed larger. New Year's brought revelation. Alex, back in town for a family visit, cornered Christopher at the diner on Douglas Avenue. Heard you're shacked up with some old-timer. Desperate much. The sneer cut, dredging old insecurities. Youth's flash versus Michael's depth. Christopher fired back, voice steel. Better an old-timer who stays than a boy who runs. But the encounter festered, planting seeds of comparison. Michael's steadiness a cage? Alex's chaos freedom? Worse came via Mom's tearful call. Church elders pressuring Tom to distance from Michael, or face board scrutiny at the high school. "They're saying it's a scandal," she whispered. "Protecting the kids." Tom resisted, but cracks showed. Late nights at the office, distance growing. Climax erupted mid-January, a Friday night game under the stadium lights. Wichita High Hawks versus rivals from Hutchinson. Stands packed, Tom's voice booming plays. Michael sat beside Christopher in the bleachers, a first public defiant. Cheers swelled as the Hawks surged, but midway, jeers turned personal. "Harlan's queer crew." From a nod of alumni, beer loose and bold. Michael stiffened, but Christopher stood, yelling back, "Mind your game." The crowd hushed uneasy, but the damage seeped. Eyes darting, whispers rippling. Post-win in the parking lot, Tom approached, face ashen. "What the hell, Mike? Showing up like that, now it's everywhere." "It was a game, Tom, not a statement." Michael's calm frayed. "Feels like one." Tom's gaze slid to Christopher, pained. "This is tearing us. I can't coach with the town thinking." "Thinking what? That love's a crime." Christopher's outburst echoed, drawing stares. "Dad, if you choose them over us." Tom recoiled, hands up. "Not choosing. Surviving." He walked away, leaving the rift canyon wide. That night, the farmhouse felt besieged. Michael paced the kitchen, fury boiling over rare. 20 years, and he picks optics over blood? Over us? Christopher pulled him close, but the embrace was desperate. "He'll see. He has to." Dawn brought decision. Over coffee, Michael laid it out. "Sell the shop. My half to Tom, clean break. We go Denver wherever. Can't fight windmills forever." The words hollowed Christopher. "And run? That's not us." "It's smart." But Michael's eyes betrayed the lie. Roots ran deep. This land in his veins. Betrayal crested unexpected. A letter from Alex slipped under the door. Apology wrapped in temptation. "I was wrong. Come to Lawrence. We can try again. No baggage." It dangled escape, uncomplicated, but Christopher burned it in the sink. Flames licking paper like absolution. Yet the pull tugged. Alone in the shop that week, sorting tools for sale, doubt assailed. Michael's age a anchor? Their love prairie-bound, while Alex promised city skies. He drove to the river, ice-fringed banks mocking, and texted Michael. "Need space. Meet tonight?" The quarry overlook, where teens parked and stars wheeled, was their spot, neutral ground. Michael arrived, truck lights cutting dark, face etched worry. "Talk to me, Chris. What's eating you?" Christopher leaned on the hood, wind whipping. This is beautiful but heavy. Dad's pulling away, town's closing in. And Alex, he reached out, says he misses me." Michael's flinch was visceral, pain raw. "And you? Miss him?" "No." The lie tasted ash, but truth followed. "I miss easy. No storms." Michael stepped close, voice breaking. "Easy ain't love. Love's the gale. You weather it, come out stronger." He cupped Christopher's face, eyes fierce. "I ain't him. Won't run. But if you need to go, I release you. No chains." The selflessness shattered him. Tears froze on cheeks as Christopher surged forward, kissing him with all the desperation of drowning men. "Not going. You're my storm, Mike. My home." They clung there, world fading, reaffirming in touches and whispers. But as they drove back, headlights piercing night, Christopher glimpsed Tom's truck parked dark at the road's end. Watching, waiting, the ultimate betrayal of trust. Confrontation brewed inevitable. The next morning, Tom summoned them to the family kitchen, Mom fluttering anxious with tea. "Saw you last night," he said, voice leaden. "At the overlook. Knew it was true." Silence suffocated. Then Michael spoke, steady. "Tom, we save it." Tom's eyes, red-rimmed, fixed on Christopher. "I followed 'cause I worried. Thought maybe drugs, trouble. Not this." He gestured helpless. "My boy's with my best friend. How do I live with that?" "You live with love." Mom interjected soft, hand on his arm. Like we vowed. Tom deflated, shoulders slumping. I tried hating it, prayed, but seeing you too. It's real. Hurts like hell, but real. He extended a hand to Michael, tentative. Forgive the asshole? Michael clasped it, grip firm. Forgiven, brother. Long as we're good. The thaw began there, halting. Dinners strained but shared. Tom asking halting questions. How'd you know, son? Answers flowed. Barriers crumbling. The shop sale halted, partnership mending. Yet scars lingered. The town's chill persisted, but they armored with community. The diner's waitress who slipped extra pie. The kid from church who came out quietly, crediting Christopher's courage. Love, humanistic in its mess, proved resilient. Spring unfurled green, fields reborn. Christopher and Michael planted a garden behind the farmhouse. Tomatoes, basil, hope, hands dirty, laughter free. One evening, as sunset gilded the silos, Michael dropped to one knee in the furrows. Ring glinting simple. Silver band, etched with steady. Marry me, Chris. Not for show, for us. Tears blurred. Christopher hauled him up, kissing fierce. Yes, 1,000 times. The wedding was small. Prairie chapel. Tom walking him down the aisle, Mom dabbing eyes. Vows echoed simple. In storms and sun, I choose you. Rings exchanged, hands clasped, the heartland bearing witness. Years wove forward. The shop thrived, a haven for outcasts seeking repairs and refuge. Tom coached with pride, Michael's name on the plaque. Christopher taught auto shop at the high school, mentoring boys like he'd been. Hidden no more. Regret faded, replaced by grace. That message, once a cry in the dark, birthed light. A reminder that understanding isn't given. It's chosen, fought for, loved into being. In the end, amid wheat waves and wide skies, they found not perfection, but peace. Two men, intertwined, humanly whole. Epilogue whispers in the quiet of later years, but the heart of their story pulses in the everyday graces. The way Michael's hand finds Christopher's across the breakfast table, calluses softened by time. The annual fair where they man the booth side by side, now with stories of travels to pride in Denver, badges of battles won. Tom's hair silvers, but his claps on their backs ring true, laced with proud of you boys. Mom's pies come with recipes annotated. For the grooms. One summer eve, as cicadas hymn, they drive the back roads, windows down, radio crooning Springsteen, Thunder Road, anthem of open hearts. Christopher glances over, Michael's profile etched by dashboard glow, lines deeper but eyes brighter. Remember that message? Thought it'd end me. Michael squeezes his thigh warm. Brought you to me. Best damn mistake ever. Laughter bubbles, free, and they pull over where the river bends silver, stars mirroring on water. No words needed, just arms around waists, kisses slow as eternity, the world a canvas they've painted bold. In America's vast heart, where winds whisper secrets and fields hold memories, love endures, not flawless, but fierce. Human after all.